Welcome to Cryptid Crossroads 505. I'm Larry.
And I'm Vince,
Welcome to the show.
where we talk all things cryptid,
Sasquatch,
aliens,
hauntings.
and anything paranormal you would like to share with us.
You can reach us at cryptidcrossroads505@gmail.com.
So settle in, open your mind, and enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome to Cryptid Crossroads 505. We're back in the studio doing it once again. So Vince, give him a shout out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the CCR 505 studios.
That's right. We're back here doing it once again. And as usual, before we get started, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Chris. Chris, there you go, man.
Yep.
Now it has official
Content.
content.
Yeah, Chris is the only one who stepped up to sponsor us.
That's right. So we're going to do our traditional shot to you guys. There you go.
Peace. Thank you
Peace.
for listening. Oh man, that'll put hair on your
Oh,
chest.
yeah. Now, if we could just get someone to sponsor us when that bottle runs out.
You got a couple more episodes, so think about it.
Think about it. Depending on how big the shots are, you may have 2 or 3 more episodes.
Or you might have till tomorrow.
That's right, depending on how I feel. Anyway, we're going to get back on the subject of Sasquatch tonight because we love that topic. We enjoy that topic. And that's the topic that started all this.
Right. That's exactly right.
Right.
After I had my experience, we're heading back up there doing our own. We just started doing research.
Right.
We're basically starting from scratch. We're starting our field research, our online research, watching documentaries.
Right.
We basically learned as we went.
We really did. Now, you know, the one thing we didn't do, and it's because of not COVID, but we've just been busy with work,
Yeah.
the holidays. But we usually try and get up there when it snows to see if we find prints.
Right, and we have had a couple of good snowfalls since.
We have.
Driving back, I went out of town. I came back today, and the mountains, the mountaintops still have snow.
Right. And I was thinking about that today. I said, you know, we're going to do our podcast today. And I said, the one thing we haven't done is run up there and check the snow for prints. Now, some areas they lock up, but still, we look for prints on the side of the road and wherever we could get access to. And we've been lucky a couple of times, like when they opened up and there was snow and we took my dog.
Right.
Yeah, there were some good prints then.
Right.
But on the subject of Sasquatch.
Now, just a real quick thought. They have it locked up for vehicles now. What if we park there and hike back?
I think it'd be perfectly fine. I just wouldn't want a Squatch chasing me.
Well, I was going to say, as long as we don't have to make a quick exit,
Right,
we'll be all right. 'Cause,
right, we'll be all right.
Look at us. There's nothing quick about us.
Nothing.
Except our wit.
That's right. Nothing. But anyway, you know, we did touch on the topic a little bit about the different sizes of Squatches in different areas. And I just want to touch base on it real brief. I mean, we did talk about it, and it's been a while. But I was recently reading a post that was done by one of the people that follow our podcast, and he posted on Facebook. And it was interesting because he said he's heard of research where in like the Pacific Northwest, the footprints as well as the sightings, the size of when they see a Sasquatch is roughly 8 foot, and the prints are between 14 and 15 and a half inches. And based on his research and what he's learned, and he wants anyone to reach out if they have any like hard, solid evidence or they're researching this topic themselves. But further, as you get closer to Canada, they get bigger in size and the prints get bigger. And once you reach Canada and close to Alaska, they just get huge.
Right. Now, I want to go back to that Todd Standing documentary.
Right.
The one that he showed, remember with the back to him?
Yes,
That thing was huge.
it was humongous. How tall would you say that one
I
was?
would say at least 10 feet, at least.
Because he's over 6 foot, and when he stood,
He had to kind of jump and
right,
to get to the shoulder.
just to touch the shoulder. So, and did you the width of those shoulders, man? That is a
Right.
small little freight train walking through the forest.
Now, I want to throw this out there. I watch a lot of documentaries, and the one thing people do not do, the people who catch these sightings,
Right.
is go back and take a picture of themselves or somebody else for
Comparison,
perspective, right?
right.
And that's very important as far as determining the size.
It is.
That's why a lot of these videos, it's so hard. A lot of these guys that are good, they could take like the size of a tree and, they basically know the size of a full-grown pine tree or whatever.
Right.
But still, that's not exact. It'd be better if you'd go back and do a comparison photo.
Right. Even if you stand in that same spot where you took the footage and you say, well, here I am. I'm 5'8", 5'9", whatever. And then they compare it to the photo. That gives you a good comparison.
Right. And I think that would debunk a lot of them too.
I think it would. Yeah. But it was interesting. And I like we talked off air, we have touched on the subject, but it makes me think that, and our philosophy was, the gravitational pull, some places and whatnot. We had our own theory that we went through, but it is interesting to see, that there are different sizes squatches out there and they're roaming wherever. Now that makes me question, do these squatches that are that big, do they roam or do they stay like in certain areas to grow to that height?
And that's the thing. And I would imagine that they have a territory, but I'd imagine it's a pretty big territory.
I would think so too. But what about some of these East Coast sightings? And I don't mean like East Coast New York. I mean up in like Michigan and Kentucky and these areas where people have seen them and they've seen some pretty big ones.
Right. But I want to say those are like 8-9 feet.
Yeah, you could be right. But I know that the biggest ones are like in British Columbia, up near Alaska.
Right.
And we used the Todd Standing one, for example. That monster was big.
Right. And like we talked about earlier, it might have something to do with the gravitational pull. That's why people are certain heights in different locations.
Right.
Or also we talked about the shark in a tank theory.
Right.
It grows to its environment.
Right. It can't get too big because the environment doesn't allow it.
And that's why I was thinking that these big ones in Alaska, they have a big territory. So,
well, they, not only that, let's think about their diet.
right.
They have more protein, more available protein, all the salmon, all the deer. There's just so many more factors that could play into the size of these beasts. Now, we know that, let's say, for instance, here, we know that the ones where we live here in New Mexico, it's high desert. There's plenty of berries, there's plenty of wildlife, but what would stop these ones from getting as big as, let's say, one in Alaska?
Well, one is they don't have a bigger territory.
That's true.
Well,
they are
but
limited.
then again, who I don't know, because these mountains connect all the way up to the Rocky Mountains. So
They do, and see, and that's why I'm conflicted by why are the ones up there so big, and the ones down here 8-9 feet tall.
it could be a combination of everything. It could be a combination of the diet also, because we have lots of game and stuff, but up in Alaska, the wilderness is pretty much untouched. So there's a whole lot of protein sources up there.
There is, but I still, I just have questions because I'm like, why couldn't a squatch living in the Jemez grow to 12 feet?
But the ones in Alaska, like you said, certain times of the year, they probably have all the salmon they could eat. They have caribou. Now, I don't know that a Sasquatch could take down a moose, but probably a juvenile or...
Probably.
but they have probably protein throughout the year. Where here, they have it certain months, and the game may move a little bit, and because of humans, they don't go closer to those territories. So that's when they gorge on berries and nuts and stuff like that.
Right. And of course, berries and nuts are going to keep you lean and
Right, and just for example, look at the size of our bears compared to the bears in Alaska.
right. Good point. Good point.
Yeah, and look at look at the size of our cousins here compared to the ones in Alaska.
Right. That's
No, I just inside joke.
No, but I mean, that was a good question that you brought up, and it made me start thinking why. But, you know, as I was thinking, it brought me back to what the natives, like up in the Washington area, up in the Pacific Northwest, even in Alaska, how some of those natives said that the bigger ones are the mountain dwellers. And that's why they're so big. And the lowland ones are the ones that we see that are 8-9 foot tall.
Right.
And when we talked about that, I had never heard that before.
Right, and I don't know. Maybe the ones in Colorado are bigger. I don't know.
I don't know, because for Colorado having the Rocky Mountains, I sure don't hear about a lot of sightings up there. Unless
there's a couple of I guess groups like what is it called, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization,
right.
And they're the ones who posted. Remember that one in the rear view camera?
Oh yeah, the
hit.
one chasing the car.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one, but I mean,
They have quite a few actually if you follow them.
okay, see, and I don't. Maybe I should, but I go online and I look at the map of sightings, and yeah, the Pacific Northwest is a hot spot.
Right. And it's weird because I've known a lot of people around here who have sightings, but if you look at the New Mexico map, there's like almost none.
Right. Oh, I know.
Because I think a lot of it goes unreported.
I think you're right there. I think a lot of sightings just go unreported because people just don't want to be criticized. They don't want to be called crazy.
Yep, and I've been called all the above.
Right, and
now,
anymore, I don't care.
Now, I got a question for you. According to this theory, the further north you go, the bigger they are. Now, we've talked about the big thicket with how aggressive they are. Now, I've never really heard anyone say how big they are down there.
I have heard people talk about them down there, and they're like 9 feet tall.
Okay, so
like 9 feet tall. But the what they say makes them different than some of these other sightings in different locations. And I don't know why they are aggressive down there. They're like, get out.
Maybe it's just like these little guys that it's called little man syndrome. They got a chip on their shoulder, something to prove.
Well, maybe. And then there again, we did talk about that, and we said maybe it's because, you know, if you go, there's a lot of open land down there, but maybe they're building where they've set up their territory and what they claim is theirs. Maybe we're just building too much into it, expanding, building homes, shopping centers.
Or not only that, they kind of have to be aggressive, because if you take a look at it, there's a lot of hunters in Texas, especially with the feral pigs.
A lot of hunters, yep. And that could be right. You know, maybe they are aggressive just because everyone in Texas carries a gun, and people ain't afraid to shoot at things down there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's just theories.
Yeah, I mean, everything we're talking about is theory because we truly don't know.
Right.
I mean,
and that's what we've always talked about, these people who go speak at seminars and stuff about Bigfoot. I mean, they're supposed to be the experts, but it's all theory.
Yeah, I mean, they say introducing so-and-so expert on Bigfoot. I'm like, well, what makes you the expert?
Right.
I mean, how have you sat down and had discussions with them?
Right.
Have you had counseling sessions?
And I've probably had an encounter probably better than some of the so-called professionals.
And you probably have. I mean, does it make them an expert because they've read every Sasquatch book, or what?
Right. It's just everyone has their theories, and I don't know.
I don't think. I think there's people that are more knowledgeable than others, but I seriously don't think there's an expert in this.
No, if there is, I don't know. Now I've heard stories about people living with them,
Right.
But you know, you got to take those with a grain of salt.
Right. Now if someone truly has lived with them for a time, then you could say you're an expert.
Okay, now I want to go back real quick. I sent you, I don't know if you watched it yet, the interview of Dr. Johnson when he had his...
I did not. I still haven't watched it.
Okay, it was a very convincing interview. How he talked about his first encounter, and he was very emotional when he talked about it. And then he talked about an encounter later on while they were in camp, and that's when he talks about the portals and the cloaking device, because he's seen one and it started running toward him. Then it just disappeared, like it went through a portal, but you could still see the footsteps. It was, pushing leaves aside as it was running.
Right.
And it ran up to the camp, but it wasn't there.
Huh.
And he said they kind of got harassed for a while, and he said, enough. He said, stop. He's like, we have no weapons. We mean you no harm. And he said from that day forward, all their encounters have been very peaceful.
Peaceful.
And that's why he said, my first encounter, I got really worked up. I got scared. And he said, there's no reason to, because they won't hurt you.
Huh.
But obviously he hasn't done research in the big thicket.
I was going to say that's in some other areas too. That's not the case because let's look at, and they don't point directly to Sasquatch, but some of the 411 missing cases,
especially in Alaska.
Right. So where did these people go?
Right. Well, and in the big thicket, it's just crazy because they find clothes up in trees and
right.
And one theory in Alaska, you've heard of the Alaskan Triangle, where I think about 100 people go missing a year.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the exact number, but it's ridiculous.
Well,
now a lot of it is, I know that the forest is very, it's very unforgiving. It'll reclaim a body quick. So if somebody gets turned around, could you imagine? People get lost in the Jemez Mountains, and we've been there. We're like, how does this happen? You just climb to a mountaintop and you could see roads. Or
there again, I don't know. But here's one theory that I think, because we always hear about people that had, and I've seen it on documentaries. I've seen it more than once on people giving their story on these woods are haunted. When they've had a Sasquatch encounter, a close one, they said they've been disorientated and they didn't know where they were in the forest, and they lost their sense of time and their sense of direction.
Okay. I could kind of understand that, because when I had my encounter, I think I've told you this before, how long would you say it takes us from the main road to get to our spot?
If we're just cruising it, maybe 20 minutes?
Well, you kind of got to cruise it.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Okay, now that night we abandoned our camp. I want to say it seemed like it took like 2 minutes to get to the main road.
Wow. And yeah, that's not the first time I've heard of time loss and disorientation, no sense of direction. I've heard it more than once on a lot of these encounters where people say, I saw it and I just lost my sense of direction. It was running all over. I didn't know, So is it that you get so frightened and they're running through the bush, scaring you, that now you've lost your sense of direction? You don't know. Now,
when my encounter first started, it did scare me. Every muscle in my body was shaking, but I didn't lose my composure. Probably because I had my kids.
Right.
That is what forced me to keep a level head.
Right.
And my son, maybe he really freaked out. That's why he didn't want to go back.
Right.
But I got everybody, and man, they're ready to go in a heartbeat. But getting back to the size, I don't know. 12 foot. Could you imagine running into something 12 foot in Alaska?
Well, I mean, they have Kodiak bears that...
Right. Well, they have some that are over 6 feet on all fours, right, at the shoulders.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Once that bad boy stands up...
Yep. Yeah.
You're looking at a big boy now.
Yep. Now, protein, there you go. They could gorge on salmon.
And you know what? And that's good protein. And it is true, any animal, without the proper nutrition and protein and vitamins, you're not going to grow tall. You're going to be stunted. Your growth will be stunted.
Right.
And that's just That's proven, even with humans.
Well, yeah, even with us, I mean, that's one thing our mom used. You got to eat everything on your plate. Everything I put on there is good for you.
Right. Well, she didn't tell us we had to eat 2 or 3 plates.
Right. And we had a cousin, his mom would tell him, because he didn't like the crust on the bread.
Right.
If you eat the crust, you'll grow sideburns like Elvis.
What, did he?
No.
There you
More
go.
like David Carradine. No, but getting back to the Alaska and the size of things, in the Alaskan Triangle, there's a lot of people who go missing, and one of the theories is, a race of giants still alive there.
Yeah, we've talked
but
about that.
if you talk to the locals, they've seen the Bigfoot and they're big, so
There's your
technically
giants.
that is a race of giants.
And there again, we take it back to the First Nation peoples that been here. You know, some of the tribes say, no, there are forest brothers, but some of the tribes say no, that they kidnap, they steal, and they
Right.
eat them.
Right.
They're like that. They're cannibals. They eat us.
Right. Now, and we've heard those stories come from Navajos, the local tribe.
Right.
And like you said, we're in the high desert. So,
It makes there's just so many things that I know, there everything out there is theory. For one, we don't have one in captivity. Two, we're not like Jane Goodall. We're not living amongst a clan of them, studying them. So everything we learn, it's piecemeal, as I call it. We take your sighting and grab a nugget from that sighting, grab a nugget from that. So we take all these thousands of sightings and we grab nuggets and we try and piece it together and make sense of how these creatures live, how they habitate, how they migrate, even their breeding. How do they breed? Is there one alpha male that breeds with all the females? And we just don't know.
right. Now, getting back to, you mentioned Jane Goodall. Now, do you think it's possible for someone to live amongst them?
If I think if you were in the right place at the right time and you went back consistently, and let's say there was a tribe that was just sedentary and they stood in this one maybe 20 square mile radius, and you were there constantly, I mean, not just a month, for years, like 2-3 years, and they got comfortable with you, I think it's just the same thing with the apes.
Kind of like
once
Dances with Wolves.
Yeah, once they learn that you're not a threat, and if you watch them and you like mimic them and forge like them, they may say, "Oh, a little
Now-
less hair, but we'll bring them in."
Right. Now, I think to study them, you'd have to be left in like if they have a clan central, like where they keep the young, because like to roam with the hunters and stuff, there's no way we could keep.
No, because they're too swift, too muscular. You'd be dead in a mile, and they'd be 2 miles ahead of you.
Yep, they wouldn't even know.
Yeah, because from what people have said in their sightings and people that have seen these creatures like take off and run, they're super athletic.
Right. And and then they do the on all fours thing.
Right. Yes. Now, I've seen a lot of good episodes on These Woods Are Haunted, season 3. So anyone that has Discovery Plus, I would suggest you go check out some of these encounters and take them with a grain of salt, but listen to them, because some of them are really interesting, and I think a lot of them are factual and true.
Right. Now that you brought up like streaming services, I do a lot of research on YouTube. I'm not saying I believe everything, but I like to see a lot of the new footage, a lot of the new sounds. And there's a couple of new videos that I haven't seen before, and I think we've pretty much seen everything there.
Right.
But,
I think I have.
There's a couple of new sightings. They could go either way. I seen a picture of one kind of in a field, but I mean, everyone says we have technology. Everyone carries a camera. How come there's not more photos or video? Now out there, even if there is a photo, it's just hard to get a good one, especially if you're shaking.
Right.
And then also a new audio recording. I don't know if it's new or I don't even know where it came from. It was just, I stumbled across it. I sent it to you.
Right. And I'm gonna upload it I need to take it off my phone and then I'll put it on what we're talking in, and then you'll hear it. So I just let me just put it in layman terms. I gotta transfer the file.
Yeah. But anyway, we've put the Sierra sounds before, and this audio clip is the closest
When I listened to this, I was like, wow. I said, we got to play this for our listeners and let you be the judge.
Right. Now, the one thing about the, what was it, Moorhead, was that his name?
Yeah.
He had a lot of audio and stuff he put out there. He told his stories about how they would come and visit them, how they would lock themselves into that shelter.
Right.
How he even talked about the orbs and stuff he's seen.
Yeah, no. He gives a good interview and a good account of everything that's happened to him.
Picture,
he does.
But I don't remember him ever saying the size.
No, he never says the size. Although he did say they seen him a couple of times from a distance. And I think they never seen the size because a lot of the times they were locked up in the shelter. You know, I think it was out of more out of fear than,
right.
You know, and I don't blame them because if I was up in the Sierras, miles and miles away from anybody, and I had just my revolver and a limited amount of ammunition, I think I'd be scared too.
Right, but we've also talked about how a lot of hunters claim they never seen them, and we talked about because they know what the
boomstick, yeah.
But in the Sierra Sounds, his whole crew, they were up there hunting, so they had to have seen them with guns.
Well, I think now we're getting up in the Sierras. That's high territory. I think these ones were so remote that they really didn't fear men.
Right.
And
were the lower ones who see them all the time.
Right. They probably didn't fear men, but they were curious. That's why they came up. But if you listen to the vocalizations, I also think that they're like, you know, hey, let's surround them just in case.
Yeah.
Because that's what it sounds like they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like they definitely had a game plan because they were talking amongst each other. And you could tell who the alpha was because he was the one the loudest and mumbling and
it's just crazy. Yeah,
I'm like, that's one in control.
Right. Now, just real quick before we part, I want to mention, I forgot to tell you this, I went and I had drinks with a lady the other day, and she loves the mountains. She loves going to the Jemez Mountains, and I didn't even tell her my story. Well, she knows, you know, my background, but I didn't even get on the subject. She's the one who told me it's crazy up there. Every time I go up there, I see orbs.
Wow.
And I'm like, I told her what we've seen, but we've never seen orbs.
No, I mean, we've seen, and I don't care who says, we've seen a ton of UFO activity. We always seem to have some kind of encounter, a freaky encounter that we can't explain.
Right. So I'm going to try to get her the location where she likes to go, and maybe we'll see some orbs and we can talk about that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'm willing to give different locations a try because we may hit gold.
Yeah, we're hitting pretty good where we go though.
It is,
as long as we don't have noisy neighbors.
Yeah, I know.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. No, and that's true. We've had some pretty good luck there. I mean, we've been out there all alone, and yet we've heard crazy things and we couldn't explain.
Right. Where we've tried another area because we've ditched the tents recently and got something a little more comfortable for our old bodies.
That's right.
But the places we went to, there're just too many people.
There is, and when you get a high amount of people and high traffic like that, people running up and down the forest roads.
But now I'm not saying they're not there. I'm just saying we didn't hear nothing.
Well,
because I told you about the girl that camps there, and she had an experience when they were doing a night hike.
Well, and maybe the time that they were camping there was not a lot of people setting up camp. Maybe it was just a few people and they were one of them.
No, they go during the high camping when there's high volume.
See,
because she was telling me they have to go early to get their spot.
Yeah, and it could have been because of the water source there that they were passing through. And, you know, we always see deer and elk and everything through there. And
what made sense to me is where we camp, we get a lot of activity earlier in the evening.
Right.
And I think they make a loop. They go to the lake because at night, like say 3, 4 in the morning, when we hear the screams, it kind of comes from that area.
Yeah, they're from a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking, because there's another stream there. So
Yeah, it could
a
be.
drink of water on the way home.
It could be.
And they got fish. They're small fish. I'm sure they could bite-sized little snacks.
Oh, I'm sure that's a snack for them, but it's grab 2 or 3 of them and be on your way.
Right.
That's a good protein source, and those are just like goldfish. Just grab a handful and
Yeah, but anyway, I'll try to get that location so we could go. Orbs would be something cool. That's something I've never seen in person before.
no, get it so that we could go check it out. Anyway, that's what we wanted to bring to you tonight, and we hope you enjoy what we're sharing with you. And like we always say, if you got something, reach out to us.
I thought you were going to say reach out and touch some.
Well, you could do that too if you want.
Commercial?
Yep. AT&T, reach out and touch someone. Oh, that just gave our age away.
Oh.
And for those of you that are listening, we do talk about the email and the intro, the outro. Reach out to us. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, at the end, you have our email. Reach out to us.
Yes.
We want to hear from you. Hey, thanks for watching.
We hope all you YouTubers enjoyed the show.
That's right. And don't forget to reach out to us at cryptidcrossroads505@gmail.com.
Peace.
Peace.